The day everything nearly fell apart began like any other, with the sound of rain tapping against a cracked apartment window and a mother counting coins on a kitchen table that had seen better decades. Sarah Mitchell did not know yet that this day, soaked in fear and quiet desperation, would change the course of her life forever. All she knew was that her son's life was slipping through her fingers and the world felt cruelly indifferent to her prayers. Before the story unfolds any further, pause for a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of humanity to surprise us when hope feels lost, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Sarah was 32 years old, a single mother living in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone waved but few truly saw your pain. Her husband Daniel had died 3 years earlier in a construction accident, leaving her with their 5-year-old son Noah, and a silence that never quite left the apartment. Since then, Sarah worked 2 jobs, one as a waitress at a roadside diner and the other cleaning offices late at night. She rarely slept more than 4 hours, but even exhaustion felt like a privilege compared to the fear that lived in her chest every day. Noah was her world. He had Daniel's gentle eyes and a smile that could soften even the hardest mornings. But over the past year, that smile had faded. Noah had been diagnosed with a rare heart condition, one that worsened with time. The doctors were clear. Without surgery, he might not survive past his next birthday. The surgery was available, the doctors skilled, the hospital ready. What stood between life and death was money, a staggering amount Sarah could not even comprehend, let alone afford. Insurance covered only a fraction. Fundraisers brought sympathy but little cash. Loans were denied. Credit cards were maxed. Every door Sarah knocked on seemed to close gently but firmly in her face. Still, she refused to stop trying. Mothers like Sarah learned to live on stubborn hope. That was how she found herself standing in the glass and steel lobby of a downtown Chicago skyscraper, clutching a worn folder filled with medical records and rejection letters. Inside that building worked Michael Reynolds, a self-made millionaire known across the state. He was famous for his ruthless business sense, his sharp suits, and his belief that emotions had no place in decision-making. To Sarah, he was not a public figure or a headline. He was simply her last option. Michael Reynolds had grown up poor, raised by a single father who taught him discipline but little warmth. By 45, Michael had built an empire in logistics and real estate. His name appeared on charity lists, but mostly for tax reasons, not personal involvement. He believed deeply that people should solve their own problems the same way he had clawed his way up. Sympathy in his mind weakened people. Sarah waited for nearly 2 hours before being escorted into a sleek conference room. She sat stiffly, hands folded, heart pounding. She explained her story carefully, without dramatics, because desperation often scared people away. She asked for a loan, not charity. She promised repayment, even though she had no idea how she would manage it. She spoke of Noah, of his heart, of time running out. Michael listened with polite distance. He reviewed the papers, nodded occasionally, and then declined. The reason was simple and painfully logical. The risk was too high. She had no collateral, no stable income, and no realistic repayment plan. From a business standpoint, it made no sense. Sarah left the building feeling hollow. She did not cry in the lobby or on the street. She waited until she reached the bus stop, then stared at the pavement as rain blurred her vision. That night, she went home and held Noah as he slept, listening to the uneven rhythm of his breathing. She whispered prayers she was no longer sure anyone was hearing. Days passed. Sarah prepared herself for the worst while still fighting quietly. She sold her wedding ring. She skipped meals. She pretended to smile at Noah, even as fear gnawed at her insides. The hospital called to remind her of deadlines. Time was no longer just moving forward, it was chasing her. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening miles away. Michael Reynolds could not sleep. He told himself it was stress, the markets, the constant pressure of leadership. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw the image of a tired woman holding a folder like a lifeline. He remembered his own childhood, his father working himself to the bone, the nights he went hungry without complaint. He remembered illness too, his mother dying young because treatment came too late. Michael was not a cruel man, but he had learned to armor himself against pain. That armor, for the first time in years, felt cracked. Without telling anyone, Michael asked his assistant to quietly investigate Noah's case. He contacted the hospital, reviewed the medical reports, and spoke to the surgeon. The prognosis was clear. The surgery would likely save the boy's life. The cost was high but insignificant compared to Michael's wealth. Still, he hesitated. He told himself that helping one person would not solve the world's problems. He told himself that emotional decisions led to chaos, yet the thought of doing nothing felt heavier than writing any check ever had. 2 weeks later, Sarah received a call from the hospital that made her knees buckle. She was told that the surgery had been approved and fully paid for by an anonymous donor. At first, she thought it was a mistake. She asked questions, repeated herself, and then sank onto the kitchen floor, shaking as tears streamed down her face. She held Noah close, whispering thanks through sobs she could not control. The surgery took place on a cold morning in early winter. Sarah sat in the hospital waiting room for hours that felt like years. She watched other families come and go, some smiling, some broken. When the surgeon finally approached her with gentle eyes and steady confidence, she knew before he spoke. The operation had been successful. Noah would recover. He would live. Weeks later, as Noah healed and color returned to his cheeks, Sarah learned the truth. The anonymous donor was not anonymous after all. The hospital administrator quietly told her the name Michael Reynolds, explaining that he had insisted on privacy but had not forbidden disclosure. Sarah did not rush to confront him. She did not want to embarrass him or appear ungrateful in the wrong way. Instead, she wrote a letter. She poured her heart onto the page, explaining what his decision had meant, how it had saved not just a life but an entire future. She did not ask for anything more. She simply thanked him and promised to raise her son with the values of compassion and integrity. Michael received the letter late one evening after a long board meeting. He read it alone in his office, the city lights flickering outside the window. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to feel something he had long buried: peace. He never responded publicly. He did not seek praise. But something changed in him. Quietly, he began restructuring his charitable efforts, focusing on children's health care and families who fell through the cracks. He funded surgeries, scholarships, and support programs, often without attaching his name. Sarah's life did not become magically easy. She still worked hard, still struggled, still faced long days, but hope had returned. Noah grew stronger, laughing more, dreaming bigger. He started school, running across playgrounds with a heart that now beat freely. Years later, Sarah would tell Noah the story of how his life was saved. She would not frame it as a miracle of money, but as a reminder that people are capable of unexpected goodness. She would teach him that sometimes people say no with their words but yes with their actions, and that kindness does not always announce itself. If this story is touching your heart right now, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps spread stories of hope and humanity. Before this story ends, we have one special request. Please comment the word kindness below if you believe small acts can change lives. We read every comment, and your words matter. Somewhere in America, a single mother learned that the world was not entirely cold. Somewhere else, a millionaire learned that compassion was not weakness but strength. And in between them, a little boy lived because someone chose to care when it mattered most. If this story stayed with you, if it reminded you of the power of empathy and silent generosity, please engage with this video. Your support allows more stories like this to be told, stories that remind us who we are meant to be.